What up? What up? What's going on, nephews? This is your boy Uncle Junior back again for another segment of Ask Your Uncles. Tonight we got a special guest. We got to go by the name of Uncle Drew. Uncle Drew, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing pretty good. I hope you are. Hope you're
Yeah,
having a good time.
yeah, man. Yeah, man. I'm glad you stopped by to impart some wisdom on the youth. We don't have a lot of time to interact with the youth anymore because of COVID. So, this is their virtual community. So I'm glad you're part of that
Yeah.
community.
Hey,
Uh
it's a new world. You got to adapt.
yeah, yeah. And so like I like to tell everybody, man, I really don't waste a lot of time. I just dive right into the content. But in order for you to feel more comfortable with the nephews, and in order for the nephews to feel a little bit more comfortable with you, I kind of just ask that you give a little background information about your upbringing. Like, did you grow up mom and pop, mom, step pop, mom, you know what I mean? And where you from?
Yeah. Okay. Well, my upbringing is probably a lot similar to a lot of kids. It may be a little different in the sense that I kind of come from a military family.
Mm,
Uh, my mom and dad, got separated for me at a little bit early age, but I'm still in good contact with both of them,
okay.
um, and everything is good. Both of them definitely played a major role in my upbringing,
Yeah.
and so probably like many young Black kids' homes, my household was primarily my mom.
Okay.
And she was the head of the house, and of course my dad was around at different times, and we spent a fair amount of time around each other as I was growing up. But for the most part, who I see on day in and day out would be growing up around mom.
Oh,
But having said that, I'm a
mhm.
big brother too. So
Right.
being the oldest, I kind of felt like that was my role, was to kind of step in and kind of be somewhat of the man of the house a little bit. Kind of fill in some of that gap of got younger siblings looking up to me, so it's
Mhm.
trying to make sure that I set a good example and stuff like that. But yeah, my upbringing, Christian household.
Mhm. Mhm.
Mom is very traditional Christian woman.
Mhm.
My dad is probably the opposite, a little bit more on the opposite side, where he's
Yeah.
more I guess less bound by the rules. Still practices Christian, beliefs and everything, but not quite as strict and tight to it. He's gonna hang out and have a good time. Which is,
Yeah.
I could feel that. So I take after a little bit of both of them. Honestly,
Right.
I flip a switch one way or another depending on the situation. But
Yeah.
definitely grasp a lot from both parents in that aspect of things. So that's a little
Okay.
bit about me.
And what city
So
you said you grew primarily up?
so I kind of moved around. Like I said, it's a military family. So
Right.
a lot of times wherever we were stationed,
Mm.
at a younger age, I started out kind of in Columbia, South Carolina area.
Okay.
That's near Fort Jackson.
Right.
And spent a good amount of my growing up probably through high school, early high school, beginning my first year in high school
Hmm.
was in Columbia.
Okay.
And then from there on, I basically spent the remainder of my high school years in Charlotte.
Okay.
And so that's kind of where my young adult life kind of really started. From there
Yeah.
was in Charlotte, and then of course moved on after graduating from there, A&T and all that good stuff. And so
Right. Right.
that's where things went from there.
Okay. And where you staying at currently?
So right now I'm a Winston Salem native resident here, rather, and so I've been in Winston Salem probably ever since from the time I've graduated from college until now.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. And like you said, with you moving around a lot, and you probably ran across a lot of interesting people, and some
Yeah.
of them may even, play the role of a mentor. Like,
Right. Right.
did you have several male mentors growing up, or did you have people like?
Yeah. I had quite a few. One of them that I remember especially was, like I said, I have that church upbringing a little bit, and one of them that was really close was a friend of the family. He was also a church member, and
Mhm.
his son was really we were really close friends growing up together. And
Yeah.
so naturally he kind of stepped in and kind of played a little bit of a father figure role.
Yeah.
Um, when, you know, in instances where my dad wasn't necessarily the next close older male that I could be around, I could always lean on him and ask him kind of man to man type questions like, how would you do this? And what
Yeah.
you think about that? And so, yeah, you know, but the guy's name, he was, I don't say his name, but he was a member of my church,
Okay.
and yeah, he was really just down to earth and just, you know,
Yeah.
easy to talk to. But yeah.
Right. Was there anyone in particular that you kind of set out to be like you kind of imitate a little bit?
No, no. To be honest with you, of all people that I imitate, I think the most that set myself more like and kind of look up to the most would probably just be my dad. I
Okay.
mean, I think that's just the, you know, even though the situation didn't really necessarily work out on the marital side of things, I feel like he always was on point when it came to advice and it comes to, you know, just caring and just being open and honest about things. He's really blunt, you
Yeah.
know, and so he's the type of guy that he's you know, he has a lot of comedy. He injects a lot of comedy in what he's talking about, and so
Okay.
he makes a lot of jokes about, you know, different things that can be serious sometimes, but just to kind of break down the mood of it so you can really understand that, hey, you know, life is short,
Yeah.
and you got to be able to smile and laugh even though things kind of sometimes may seem a little bit rough. You got to find the bright spot in everything. So I always tend to want to emulate some of the things that he does. You know, that military kind of style. He has a way of relating to people. I know you
Yeah.
can. I know you know a little bit something about that
A little
personally.
bit. A
But he
little
just has a way
bit.
of he has a way of relating to people because
Right.
you kind of deal with the ranks and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
he's used to dealing with folks that are ranked above,
Mm.
folks that's ranked, you know, below.
Yeah.
And so given all of that, he's just used to he's just a down to earth person.
Yeah.
And so I think that I've picked up a lot from him from that from what I've seen just being around him a lot, you know.
Yeah, yeah, and you're right because growing up, your pops is everybody's pops is like Superman. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
He
can't do
was,
no wrong.
yeah, that's just how it is. But
Yeah.
uh, I do like did your dad or your mentors, did they have any influence as far as like what you wanted to be when you grew up? Like, did you have an idea when you were younger of what you wanted to be when you got older?
Not until I started working really did I mean
Okay,
I had everybody kind of you know, probably say, hey, I want to be president or, you know, an
right,
astronaut or all these kind of things. I always looked at that and said, yeah, you know, firefighter, police officer and stuff like that. It's like,
yeah,
nah, you know, that ain't really what I want to do. You know,
yeah,
it sounds good and everything, but that ain't really what I want to do.
yeah.
And but I you know, once I started working, I think I kind of really realized I think I was kind of almost my own person a little bit with that
Okay.
because as far as people around me, I didn't really grow up around folks that were going into technical training and stuff
Mm.
like that. But once I started working, I kind of got introduced to a guy who got me into the field of working with heating and air conditioning.
Okay.
And then once I started doing that, I was like, okay, you know, this is good money, but it's hard work too. You know what I mean? You're gonna be
Yeah.
up on you're gonna be up on your feet. You're gonna be lifting units around and putting ductwork together and stuff like that. I was like, I like doing that. It's constructive. So I
Yeah.
was like, let me learn more about these blueprints though. Let me see if I can figure out how I can be more on the design side of things and how I can figure out how to lay things out
Right.
and where things need to go. Because I'm like, at the end of the day, I could sit down at a desk and that's a money thing right there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I was like, I could sit down, I could relax, I can look at the numbers and do the math on it. I'm like, yeah, I could figure it. So that's kind of how I ended up going that path. But
Okay.
yeah, I think that was kind of a decision that I kind of went in my own separate way, kind of thinking like, you know, it's you know all of the other stuff that I learning in school and stuff like that. It kind of made me wanna wanna aspire with the math and with the hands on and with
Right.
the you know the building things. And so
Right.
that was more my thing.
Okay. And for the nephews, man, so what do you currently do for a living? And I know.
So I'm a mechanical engineer.
Okay.
I work at a rubber company, and actually my work title is senior quality engineer. I've
Okay.
been um I've been at the company now for about 15 years.
Oh, wow.
And so, that's where the senior part comes in, because I've been there for a good while,
Yeah.
and got very knowledgeable with what we're doing, in the company. And
Hmm.
so, dealing with the process side on the front end of it, where how do you make rubber products and gaskets and stuff like that. And then eventually I moved into the, okay, now how do we know that it's good? What
Right.
makes it good? You know what I mean? And what does the customer want?
Right.
And so once we got to that side and started dealing with, okay, this is what the customer is looking for, and the technical things, how can I go from what they're asking for to get them what they want?
Right.
And
Right.
so I eventually ended up, over time, kind of working my way from the process side to now we're on the customer facing side of it, and saying, hey, this is what we're producing, or this is what we're capable or feasible of doing.
Right.
Will this be acceptable? And
Okay.
so that's where I'm at now.
Okay. And I know that you mentioned hard work often, and and obviously that plays a lot in any young man, what they need, what qualities that they need to inherit or learn.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
I often wonder, like, what in your opinion is another quality, a good quality that a young man should obtain.
Yeah, I've always the one thing that I've always heard. It might kind of sound a little cliche, but
Okay.
people always say, your attitude determines your altitude, right?
Right. Right.
And so if you come into a situation thinking negatively about something, or already looking at the negatives, and not necessarily understanding what positive things can be in there also, then you kind of come in a little bit closed minded, and you may miss out on some things, but you may not have the right thought process when you're looking at a certain situation. So I think it's really important to not to kind of come in with with a with an open mind, with the right type of attitude, and kind of,
Right.
always being positive, not necessarily thinking like, hey man, this is difficult, or this is tough. I don't know if I can do it,
Right.
but kind of lean on yourself and say, hey, I think I can do it.
Yeah.
People think that maybe I can't do, but watch, I'm gonna show you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that's kind of my attitude, has always been that, you have to kind of have your the right mentality when you approach different things, and not let somebody, you know, project different opinions or their thoughts on things for you, but form your own opinions, and let your experiences show you that.
Right, right. And on the flip side of that, like we mentioned, just those are great qualities to have. Like you said, have a positive mindset. That's a great
Mm-hmm.
trait, and have a good work ethic. Be a good hard worker. But
Mm-hmm.
like, what traits would you believe would make life difficult for a young man? Like, if they already, what traits that they may already possess that may hinder their growth, or in some ways their success.
I think in having any type of self doubt, a
Mhm.
lack of self confidence,
Mhm.
because I think it all kind of starts in the head, and in the heart,
Okay.
and and one of the things that you have to build on. I think you can't put a roof on a house before you put the basement in. You know what I mean? You got to
Yeah.
start from the foundation and go up. And
Yeah.
so you have to have that. That's one of those key things that I think you have to have. You got to start with, you know, um, if you already come in, and your mentality is, hey, this is going to be a little bit tougher than I think, or I don't know if I've done anything like this before. This might be the might be more than I'm able to do.
Right.
Then you're already casting doubt on yourself. You're already saying what you can't do, and you putting just that thought there that you plant a seed, it's gonna grow eventually.
Right.
And so it depends on what type of seed you plant. So if you want to grow, the Bible talks about this too. If you plant good fruit,
Yeah.
what I mean, you're gonna harvest good fruit. You know what I mean?
Right.
But you plant this type of seed, you're gonna harvest. You can't plant an apple and get an orange. And
Okay.
so you
Okay.
have to you have to start right there and say, okay, if this is what I'm looking for, then the only way I can get it is I have to put these right things into it. What tools am I working with to get there? And what and making sure that that you're doing the work that goes with it too. I mean, you put a seed in the ground, you got to water and you got to put some sunlight on it.
Yeah.
And if it
Yeah.
don't get all of that, it's never going to grow. It has to have everything,
Yeah.
and so it has to have the right amount at the right time,
Yeah.
and I'm not a farmer, but I know that much. You know what I
You know
mean?
that much, yeah.
I know that much to get it
Yeah.
started. At least I'll probably go get a sprout somewhere. But that's I think those are some of the key things you just have to have. That confidence is important. That's one of those seeds that if you lack that, then that's where you want to start. You want to tighten that up first.
Right.
Build up that confidence. Work on your strengths.
Yeah.
Things that make sure that you keep reinforcing that and building on that.
Yeah. And looking over your past years, was there ever like one piece of advice that you wish someone had told you when you were younger that otherwise you kind of had to learn later in life?
Man, that's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah.
I gotta think about that one. There's a lot of them. There. I mean,
Okay.
there's quite a few.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Anyone come to mind right now?
um, hmm.
I mean, we can come back to it, brother. I mean,
Yeah, we had to come back. Come back. Let's come back to that one. Yeah,
okay.
there's a lot of. I mean, there's many things I wish I knew when I was
Yeah.
younger that I know now that could have saved me some headaches and
Right.
some embarrassment probably.
Right.
But it's but that's part of growing. That's part of getting older and recognizing.
Right.
Learning from your mistakes.
And I'm glad you mentioned that about learn from mistakes, right? And obviously you strike me as a cat that kind of like that paid attention to
Mm-hmm.
just people and things in general.
Right.
I wonder though, were you easy to give advice to when you were younger, or was you like hard headed? Like how did that work?
No, I don't think I was. I think I was pretty easy to. I'm the type of person that I'm like you know, my dad was a disciplinarian a little bit,
Right.
and so
Right.
if I got in trouble, like one thing you didn't want to do is you didn't want to get in trouble,
Right.
because if you did, it's not gonna go good,
Yeah.
that's the way I always think of it, and
Yeah.
if I did, I would. There was always consequences to it,
Hmm.
and so if something happens, you don't want to have to go through that more than one time.
Right.
If I'm gonna make a mistake, I'm gonna make that mistake one time, and it ain't gonna happen again if I can
Right.
help it.
Yeah.
Because I paid a price for that already.
Yeah.
And so that's that. You don't want to have to go over and over again and keep repeating the same mistake. That's what are you learning at that point? Is it doing you any good? So
Right.
yeah, but no, I mean, I guess that's kind of my answer. Is that
Yeah.
that I feel like I've got that. It I don't think I was that hard headed. I think I was the type of person that one time is enough for me. If it happens, you tell a kid don't reach on the stove because it's hot. I believe you. I don't need to burn. I don't need to burn myself. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Well, I asked because like whenever you're giving advice and everything like that, sometimes people misconstrue what's happening, right? They don't read
Right.
the situation right. They take it as criticism, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
not all criticism is negative. Some of it is is positive. But I
Okay.
do wonder, how would you advise a young man, especially a young Black man, coming from like a single mother atmosphere, to handle criticism?
Um. Yeah. I guess the big thing is not to try to take anything personally, but understand that it's coming from a place of giving advice.
Okay.
Um. Because you have to realize that usually, sometimes you're gonna have some differences with your parents or whatever, and you're gonna feel like, mom or dad, they don't understand, they old.
Right.
But I think generally parents' job is to make sure they're looking out for your well-being,
Right.
and they don't want anything to go bad with their kids, so they're gonna give you the best the best that they can as far as trying to make sure that you making the right move.
Right.
So it, my advice would be, just to listen.
Mhm.
I guess the simplest thing is just to listen
Right.
and hear them first before you kind of jump out there and say, well, I don't know. Just kind of hear what they're saying, and take a moment to kind of process that. I
Right.
mean, you probably hear this all the time, where kids kind of have that short attention span, and
Mm-hmm.
we live in a microwave generation or whatever. They used to,
Yeah.
you do something, and everything is like right now. If I want to get something to eat, I could order it. It'll be here in 15 minutes. You know what I mean? I ain't got to
Yeah.
go get it. And so I think a lot of kids now kind of look at things like that. We grew up different than
Mm-hmm.
that. And so it's like, we sit down and we got home cooked meals sitting around the table and stuff. And that takes time to do that.
Yeah.
It takes
Yeah.
some time.
Yeah.
But kids are kind of used to, instant gratification.
Mm.
And so I think that part of life and part of what kids, when they're receiving advice, is just actually understanding that, hey, you need to take the time and actually try to understand what somebody's telling you.
Mm.
Ask questions. You know what I mean? Like, if something doesn't really, register with you as a young man, there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, well, why do you think I should do it that way? Or why are you telling me this? I would do this. Would that work for you?
Yeah.
And it may be an idea, but at the end of the day, I think a parent's gonna give their advice, and the child's either gonna listen or they not.
Yeah.
But I think they're gonna have to kind of keep that in mind,
Mm-hmm.
and understand where they're coming from. And I think that'll take them a long way.
Yeah. No, I could dig that. And like I said, the main thing was that they got to listen, right? So they got to be open minded, and they got to
Mm-hmm.
be willing to learn something new that otherwise they didn't know, And and,
Right.
and, and I
Yeah.
like that. And I wonder though, you strike me as a guy that watched a lot of TV growing up. You know?
I don't know if that's good or bad. I did though. I did. I ain't gonna front.
Yeah.
I did
So,
watch a good amount of
so
TV.
so I wonder, was there ever like a famous black person that you saw that you was kind of like, man, I kind of wouldn't mind, being you admired.
Yeah. I mean, I think this one's gonna be this one right here. I think this guy is on everybody's list.
Yeah.
But I would say, most people looked up and say, hey, I want to be like Mike, right?
Okay.
Everybody think that Michael Jordan, he's the greatest.
Right.
He handles the ball.
Right.
He talks real smooth in the interviews, and
Right.
when you hear him talk about, he might have an off game this time, but he's gonna turn around and he's gonna win the next, and he's gonna
Yeah.
show out. He's gonna make up for what he didn't do.
Yeah.
So there's always guys, anybody who spoke well for themselves. I always felt like was somebody that I could look up to. Like, he was one of them, obviously.
Right.
I think there was, and I think if I have to really think about my list a little bit, I think he was always one. I liked. I always enjoyed some of the entertainers like Eddie Murphy and stuff like that for
Okay.
entertain for comic relief, but
Okay.
also because when you watch what they're doing and you
Mm.
see them off the screen, when they're actually sitting down and talking about some of the things that they're doing in life, you
Right.
kind of see, hey, this guy has some character,
Right.
and there's some things about him that that make him stand out above a lot of other people when you see them in public. And so
Mhm.
there's certain things like that you can kind of say, hey, I like the confidence that he has and the draw that he has when he's dealing with people that people can really they almost want to open up and kind of become a little more I guess kind of more relaxed when you start having a conversation with somebody like that, because
Right.
it's like, man, even though he's a star, or he and has big money and everything and done a lot of ambitious things,
Right.
he's still a human being. He got there by doing what
Yeah.
and so it's just being himself, but also being but remembering where he came from. And
Okay.
I think that the ones who do it the best,
Mm.
I think always never forget where they come from.
Yeah.
And so I think that's pretty big.
Like they use it as a catalyst, like to propel them forward instead of like a crutch to hold them back, right? Like,
Right,
where they
right.
from. And
Exactly. That's not a limitation. I think that
mm,
that's really important, is that people don't that folks tend to sometimes people feel like, well, I grew up in the hood, and and so we didn't have a whole lot,
Right.
and I only had one parent around, or not even that. I was foster home or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any different situation, but and so people kind of already start off with that. When you're in that situation, I guess you kind of want to use that as like a I hate to say excuse, but that's probably the best word I could use right there.
Okay.
And so they tend to put a limitation on themselves and say, well, because I came from here, this is what they do, and this is
Right.
what life is like around here. So I have no choice. I gotta go the way that the hood go. I gotta move like they move.
Yeah.
And but I think that you there's the other expression, and I'm one about expression. I always like an expression, but
Okay.
it's play the cards you're dealt, right?
Right.
And so you got a deck and you playing spades or whatever.
Mm.
The hand that you get is all you can play.
Right.
There's a lot of different ways you can play it. You can go ahead and put your best card out right now.
Yeah.
Then you go, but you're gonna suffer through the rest of the game if you don't
Yeah.
have a good strategy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so but regardless, these are the same cards you got. So
Mm.
you kind of have to kind of look and see, well, what do I have, and
Right.
based on where I'm from, that's not necessarily a limitation. How can
Right.
I separate myself from the rest?
Right.
How would somebody, if I went somewhere else, would somebody know that I'm from the hood?
Mm.
You know, and
Mm-hmm.
so and how would they, and what's coming? I guess, what do I exude that says that I am from the hood, or where I'm from?
Right.
And if somebody is if folks are looking at me and they're able to kind of um, come to that conclusion,
Mm.
then maybe I need to think about how I carry myself, you
Okay.
know,
Yeah.
and
Huh.
what can I do differently, and maybe, maybe in some instances you might want that to show,
Right.
like, because that's part of your hand, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a time and a place for everything, and I've heard that many times about life,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there are some times when you might want to show a little bit of a rugged side,
Right.
because
Right.
you gotta stand up for yourself. You can't let nobody run you over.
Right.
But
Right.
at the same time, there's also times when you're in a scenario where it's like, you know what, I got to put my business suit on, got to put
Yeah.
my business mind mentality on, and I can't,
Yeah.
and I have to be a little more intellectual about how I approach this, because even though I'm trying to say the same thing, I gotta come off a certain way for people to hear me,
Right.
you know,
No, I
because
like
there's a
that.
difference. Yeah, there's a difference between listening and hearing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can you can you can be listening, but you don't hear me. You know what I
Right.
mean? If you
Right.
hear me, then
Yeah.
that's different.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so and so that's and I think that's important that people realize that that you have to be able to kind of play that hand that you dealt, and understand what the situations are and how you approach
Well, like you say, let's say, and we use you would carry on with the analogy, of the cards, right? So,
it.
you found out that you're a pretty good athlete, and
Hmm.
and one of the nephews, they're like, Uncle Drew, man, I just want to be a professional athlete when I grow up. What kind of advice would you give him?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that I like that. I mean, I think that that's good. You can only, you know, everything has a season,
Okay.
and eventually, I'm an uncle. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
so my thing is, I'm not an athlete anymore. I used to ball too. You know what I mean? I used
Right.
to be all
Right.
right. I used to in my day, I used to do a little something. But
Yeah.
now I might not, and I dare say I probably would have crossed Junior up.
Right.
Not you, Junior, but but I might would have crossed somebody up back in the
Yeah.
day. And so and I guess what I mean by that though is that I think we all can kind of smell ourselves every once in a while when we start feeling like well we skilled and we gifted, and not to
Right.
take anything away,
Right.
but the statistically,
Mm.
just looking at numbers alone, there's not many people that make it to the pro level in
Mm.
any sport.
Right.
Um, and so you can be the best of the best and still not necessarily separate yourself from, say, even your high school, or, the top athlete in your high school, or the top athlete in the college you go to.
Yeah.
And even if you are the top athlete at the college, who's to say that somebody on the pro level is looking at you?
Yeah.
And so you kind of have to not to put that mentality of, I'll put it this way. I mean, let me flip this around a little bit.
Okay.
So
Okay.
based on your talent level,
Mm-hmm.
let's say that I see it in you. Yeah, you can do it, right?
Right.
I believe you can get there. I would say go for it, right? I would
Right.
definitely say go for it, but realize that there's a limitation. There's a time where injury is inevitable. You can take care of your body for so much for so long, but there comes a time when somebody even may become more athletic and take your spot.
Yeah.
Now when that gravy train stops, and you can't, you're not out there, you're no longer starting on the team, or or you just a backup, or eventually get cut.
Yeah.
Now what's plan B? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
What's plan B? And so it's and I think Denzel said this too, and I love Denzel for this, but I think he said this as well. He was like, nobody wants a plan to fall back on. You know what I mean? If I'm a fall, I want to fall forward. You know what I mean? You don't want to
Okay.
fall back. If I fall back, I'm gonna hurt myself because I don't know what's behind me, but I can see what's in front of me.
Right.
You
Right.
know
Right.
what I mean? So you have the opportunity to see what your next plan is going to be and fall forward,
Yeah.
because you don't want to set yourself up in a way that if say that basketball or whatever sport you pursuing doesn't work out, and that's it may last you for a little while, but once that stops,
Yeah.
what else are you going to do with it? How are you investing your funds?
Yeah.
What are what are you going to do for work, as far as you got a family, and or a significant other, whatever the situation is, how you gonna support that?
Yeah.
So you have to kind of think of the big picture, I think, and not just, the immediate is good, and I would go ahead, and that may be some of the best money you'll ever make.
Yeah.
But that always comes to it always comes to a point where eventually even LeBron James is gonna be old one day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, his money gonna be good because he's smart with what he's doing. He's been making the right moves, but I would say emulate that. If you have to go a route, we can't necessarily be as good as LeBron, but we can do some of the things that he's done,
Right.
financially, and be real smart about how we plan and work with it too.
And I like what you're saying, to have the plan, and falling forward. It makes me wonder. Uh, Basically, what advice would you give a young man that's saying, well, Uncle Drew, I mean, if I can't be a professional athlete, then I just want to work, but I don't really like school. So what kind of jobs,
Okay.
or what kind of trades that young man might need to consider?
Okay. I mean, school isn't for everybody. I'll say that. There's a lot of jobs. There's a lot of things in manufacturing. A lot of things that don't necessarily require you to get any a vast, like, in-depth knowledge. You can be trained on the job in a lot of different areas, depending on who you know.
Right.
Obviously, kind of gets you in the door sometimes, but also that attitude becomes important too, because if you want to be able to say, okay, maybe I didn't go to school for a technical degree, or get a master's or anything like that, but I did well when I was in school, and this is what my grades have to show for it, and this is the other type of jobs that I've held.
Right.
You want to show some consistency too, that because anytime somebody looks at a resume and says, hey, this guy's been job hopping a little bit, it kind of looks like, well, how do I know I'm not just a pit stop for your next opportunity that you got?
Yeah.
And so I think that, but me personally, I would say if school is not the route you want to go, I would say manufacturing is probably a good direction to go. You can definitely do different things from a production standpoint, whether it's operating equipment, whether it's going and actually getting a license to operate a fork truck if you're going to be in like a shipping department or something like that.
Yeah.
Hey, people make good money as truck drivers. If you get a CDL license, you know what I mean? That's not a school. It's some learning to it now, but at the same time, and you're gonna put some time in for that. but the payout is pretty good. I hear. I know people who do that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so you can definitely provide for yourself if you do that. Now the hours are long, but eventually if you invest your money right and move and take care of your tools and everything, you can probably even start your own, logistics company.
Yeah.
Where you can, do deliveries and stuff like that and schedule pickups and things like that. I mean, places like Amazon, there's all different types of things that don't necessarily require you getting a higher, degree or something like that, or another technical, you know, type of accreditation to be able to be qualified for.
Well, let's double back on that. Like how much importance would you put on education as far as obtaining a post high school degree?
Um, Continued now the degree itself is probably not as important. I think a lot of businesses may put weight on that,
Right,
depending on depending on what area you're trying to get into
right,
from one company to another.
right.
But that's not necessarily the most important thing, though. I mean, because there's still a lot of different like accreditations and a lot of different certification and training that you can actually get
Right.
that don't necessarily require you to have a 4-year degree. I mean, there's people who are technical engineers in different areas that have not done engineering, that have
Yeah,
not been to school for it. I've seen it, and
yeah,
so I
yeah,
know that. And in some ways, I kind of get offended every once in a while when I see that because I'm like, hey, oh, I put my time in, you know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
But at the same time, I think on the they learn the job on the they learn the basically on the job training,
Right.
and so via firsthand experiences at the company or wherever they work, they may be able to pick up those type of things. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think anytime you get any type of certification, you can do. A lot of companies look at like if you have like a Six Sigma lean
Hmm.
type of stuff like that.
Yeah.
You don't have to have a degree to get that.
Yeah.
You just have to have you have to basically be practicing and working in that environment, in an environment where you're using those tools and then actually go and study on that. There's
Right.
courses and stuff. There's some courses for it,
Right.
but usually they're almost like do it yourself. You can go get some books off of Amazon and kind of read.
Yeah.
And like every 6 months, these type of courses and stuff are offered. Not courses, actual tests are offered. That
Right.
once you pass that, you're certified.
Yeah. Yes.
So there's plenty of things like that people can go after, and if they want to kind of up their game and up their qualification to try to get put some marks on the resume.
Right.
Yeah.
So like school doesn't necessarily stop. Well, learning doesn't stop after high school, basically.
No, it
Right.
doesn't. It's all up to you. It's
Yeah.
really it really should never stop. If you're gonna be honest, if you want to keep unless you're getting ready to retire, it really, and even then you still want to learn because
Yeah.
the mind stops moving, the body stops growing, and
Yeah.
things start to shut down,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so you always got to keep the mind fed. But I think that yeah, it doesn't. You don't necessarily have to go and get a degree from a formal like a 2-year, 4-year program to get certified and accomplish things. You can make good money without that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I do want to switch topics. I like that what you're saying. It's that continuation, having that mindset, that drive to continue to want to better oneself, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I like that. And you know, and keeping in spirit with that, you know, we are talking about the youth, right? And
Yeah.
these young men, they're coming of age now where they're coming from single parent homes, they're coming from, challenging upbringings, and some of them, not necessarily all of them, but technically, when they get the little testosterone, they feeling, the little balls hanging, what I'm
Yeah.
saying? They
Yeah.
got the wildness, what I mean? They're bold,
Yeah.
right? But the problem is they're running into, these police officers, right? Who
Right.
don't care
Right.
nothing about where they come from.
Mm.
All they care about is that they're there now in front of them and they're
Mm-hmm.
the law.
Mm.
I wonder, what advice would you give a young Black man in his interactions with the police officer, given the climate that we live in today, where it's kind of some tension
Yeah, that's a great question.
there?
Man, I think about this one all the time. Being a dad, and of a young Black man, I'm gonna have to have this conversation at some point with my own.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that it's very important how you handle yourself in that situation.
Mm.
If I'm speaking to a young person who finds themselves in that situation like that, where
Right.
they get pulled over or get stopped by a police officer, probably doesn't look like them,
Yeah.
probably doesn't necessarily agree with or like where they come from, or maybe even like how they look, or
Right.
I think the big thing, the most important foundational thing I think that a young Black man has to have is he needs to first of all be respectful,
Okay.
and show that you come from a place that has taught you some respect,
Mm.
under because I think one of the key things that many officers are looking at when they deal with those type of situations is,
Mm.
what's your reaction to me when I
Yeah.
when I come over? Do you first, not that they want to be worshipped or anything like that, but they
Mhm.
do want to be respected and be looked at as, hey, I caught you in the wrong doing this or something that you probably shouldn't have been doing, and I just want to point it out to you. And
Right.
it's probably going to be a ticket or some type of fine or what a citation, whatever you want to go with on that. But
Right.
but I think a lot of times when you approach that situation, you have that respect in mind, and and you're very you don't bring any hostility into it,
Mm.
because it's a tough environment right now. I mean, people have this Black Lives Matter versus all cops, Blue Lives Matter. I put it that way,
Yeah.
and both, and it's kind of like it's almost clashing in thought process, even though the two aren't necessarily have to be related to each other, but they are,
Yeah.
because of what you see on social media and on the news and stuff. But
Right.
I think it's really important that we just kind of say, you know what, I don't want to be that statistic in this situation. I don't want to be the one who my folks are going to have to find out uh, about me, you know, via some post somewhere that somebody else has.
Yeah.
You want to make sure that you're putting yourself in a situation that if um, that you're taking care of yourself, that you can prevent as much harm from coming your way as possible.
Right.
And I think that respect is definitely one of the ways to do it. Just kind of calm down. It's easy for your heart rate to get up.
Right.
Kind of things escalate because nobody really wants to be in a situation. It gets a little tense sometimes, and it's just
Right.
like,
Right.
just kind of relax. And just kind of have the right. I don't really know how to put it, but just be calm about the situation, because you don't want
Okay.
things to heat up.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think a lot of times in my personal experience,
Mm.
I've had instances where, I might have been pulled over because I'm on my cell phone or something,
Right.
and I'm talking and driving or whatever, just different things like that, where the officer is looking at you like, hey man, you're not focused on the road, and I could give you a ticket or whatever. But if your demeanor is right,
Yeah.
and if you come to them with a little bit of respect and some acknowledgement of what you realize you've done, a lot
Yeah.
of time when you take that fault on yourself and say, yeah, I did,
Mm.
I realized it, or I forgot my seatbelt, or whatever the thing is, just acknowledge that,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
once you do that, all of a sudden it's like, yeah, officer kind of gets stumbled a little bit, like, well, what? Yeah, well, I was gonna tell you that, but you went ahead and you accepted that you
Yeah.
that you was in the wrong on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so and then they may switch it up on you and say, so yeah, I'm just gonna let you off with a warning this time, but please, they'll kind of hit you with that. So I think a lot of times it's all about how you approach it. I've been probably 2 or 3 times where I've been hit with warnings when I
Yeah.
could have got tickets
Yeah.
because of the fact that I approached the situation right. Say, yeah, I was speeding. Man, I was in a hurry. I ain't had no business moving like that. That was wrong. I missed that stoplight right there, whatever.
Yeah.
You just have to acknowledge it. I think acknowledging it, being calm about it, and being respectful are the most important thing.
Hmm. I like
They
that.
work for me. They may not work all the time. They ain't gonna work all the time. I guarantee you that.
Yeah, yeah,
But a lot of times they will and say, hey, by the way, officer, if it comes
yeah,
down to it, by the way, officer, I appreciate you, for pulling me over and stopping me. It made me realize,
yeah,
we get in a hurry sometimes. We
yeah,
do it wrong. I can do better.
yeah, yeah,
Hey, you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised.
yeah. Hey, I believe it too, and that's a good way to kind of close this conversation out, because like I said, we are running close to our time, and I do want to thank you again, bro, for coming by. I do like to leave my uncles with a little time to, if there's anything we didn't cover, any kind of piece of advice you want to leave for your nephews, this is the opportunity to do that. So the floor is yours, bro. If you want to say some few things that we didn't get a chance to say.
Okay, well, I'm glad to have the opportunity to kind of talk to the young folks. I mean, I guess I consider myself not a young man anymore like I used to be,
Oh,
but it's
sir.
all good. Hey, this, like I said, we said before, there's seasons for everything. But
Yeah.
I think that it's really important that that we as men, young and older, that we embrace each other. I think a lot of times in the environment that we living in, we kind of feel like our generation differences can be a bit much. But we just have to realize that, hey, our times are different, but we all mean to get to the same point. I think we just may have a little bit of a different time and different ways that we go about doing that.
Yeah.
But I would say the young men, though, definitely grab an OG somewhere. You know what I mean? Grab an OG because they've been through some things, and they didn't get there by by luck.
Yeah.
Life happens, and there's a reason why that we're out here and we're able to be successful. And that usually what that means is that we listen to somebody older than us who's been there too.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's real important. And don't let anybody tell you that because that you're a man of color that you can't succeed. I mean, we've had a black president. We got a black not first lady, but vice president right now, female. And and so color is not a limitation. Your skin color, your race is not a limitation. Never let anybody tell you that. Despite what may be put out there in the media at different times, you have to realize that, hey, I'm somebody. Anything that I aspire to be and want to be, I can be that. I just have to put in that work. And I think if I had to sum it all up, that's the best way I put it, is that don't let anybody put any limitations on you. Know who you are, and be willing to pull that OG to the side whenever you got a question to say, hey man, I ain't been here before, but I see a few gray hairs on your head. You could probably help me out a little bit on this. And usually they'll be honored to sit down and chat with you and tell you where they're coming from. So yeah, don't hesitate. That's my advice.
That's what's up. That's what's up. Well, like I said, I wasn't able to get through all my questions, but hopefully, if you're up for it, we'd love to have you back on the show and keep the conversation
Oh
going.
man, I love it, man. Anytime, sure. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Great, great. Well, with that, brother, we're gonna go ahead and sign off. And again, man, God bless, and I thank you for your time. All right.
All right, man. Take care.
All right, bro.
All right, bye.